Really want an idea what some examples of all these are. If you go to the very back of this one, or not very back, it's about maybe halfway in. You'll see here where it says Division B, it's got classification. Here are examples of the different groups. Now the one I took this from is from 2005, so there's no B3 listed. It should say A3121 and one in parentheses in it. Those are examples. I've just taken some small snippets out of the code just to give you some idea. A little bit more. One more. There it is. Starts there. So you can see some of the different examples of some of the classifications. Keep on moving. That's it. Couple more. There we go. Starts there. That's good. Everybody else at it? Yep. Put your at the very end. Here's the start. Keep on going. So I just took some parts right there. Starts there. Those are the classifications and examples over here. Is that every example? No, it's not. It's just to give you an idea of how we consider it. So one of the first things we're always going to have to do is classify the building. What's it going to be used for? Yeah. Oh, so it's right here. These are the examples. See, there's an A1, A2. Okay, those are all just different examples. Everybody at it? Yeah, so A1, it shows you what an example of an A1 is. Shows what some examples of A2. A3, so on and so forth. The one that's missing there, because that's from the 2005 code book, is B3. B3 only came in with 2010. Okay? Now the book, some people, I think, if you want, you can buy it. My understanding is you guys are going to work with electronic copy. Although the carpentry section is looking to donate their 2005 paper copies to us. It might be wise, if you can't afford it, to get your own copy. Because the problem with the electronic one, it comes from the library. You cannot take it off campus. You can't work with it at home. You have to be here. Okay? There's nobody in industry that I know of that uses electronic copy. It's all paper. Although there's some things easier about the electronic copy than the paper one. One of the other instructors, he has the A&E students. He gave them the choice. Almost all of them left the electronic, went to paper. However, I don't feel right to ask you to buy your own copy unless you can afford it or someone else is going to pay for it, because it's $300. It is not a cheap book. That's why we're trying to get you guys to do the electronic, or maybe we use the 2005 and use the electronic to supplement it, okay? Just to bring it up to date, because there are some advantages and some changes in 2010, obviously. Some buildings are still done. In fact, the stadium was done with the 2005 code book, because 2010 didn't get printed till November 27th, 2010. Manitoba was one of the first provinces to enact it, and that didn't happen until April 1st, 2011. So any building that was done prior to that date is under the old 2005 code. Okay? They cannot force you to bring it to the latest code in mid-construction or anywhere else, okay? The only time they can force you to upgrade, as it said earlier about the objectives, is if you do an alteration or renovation. Then you have to comply with the latest code. Otherwise, they can't force you. There'll be a lot of buildings on this campus which are wrong. So we're going to go through this. We're going to go through classification of buildings. We're going to talk about fire resistance ratings. We're going to talk about area of unprotected openings. That means windows. There's limitation on how many windows you can have, or how much windows you can have. We're going to talk about not only fire resistance rating from the inside, but also from the outside, the construction. Because sometimes the materials you have to choose for the outside will be based because of the code. You cannot use, for instance, a wood material as a facing if you have to use non-combustible materials. Right away, wood's out. You have to use stucco, masonry, some other materials. So a lot of times material selection is strongly or almost solely based in many cases on the building code. So probably next to cost is probably the next biggest factor in selection of materials for the buildings. And a lot of times the bigger it is, the more stringent it becomes. Especially if you have a lot of people, like a school. You start talking about concrete block for walls instead of studs, although steel studs can suffice. But you also need sprinkler systems and so on and so forth. Okay? There's all kinds of issues. So we're going to talk about classification. How to determine what the safety article has to be, what fire resistance rating does it need, does it have to be sprinkled or not. We're going to talk about egress doors and exit doors. Egress and exit doors are not the same thing. An exit door is also an egress door, but an egress door is not an exit door. For instance, this door here, is that an egress or an exit?
It's an exit.
It's an egress. This is not an exit door. But general terms, most lay people use almost anything that gets you out of a room as an exit. It is not. An exit's very, very, very specific. So we'll go through that too. We'll also calculate how many washrooms do we need. That's part of 3.7, health. And one thing that's become very big over time is barrier-free. 3.8, it's a requirement. Almost all buildings, with some exceptions, especially houses or residential, have to incorporate barrier-free. That is, have to incorporate things such as ramps, doorway width large enough to allow for people, washrooms, to allow for people in a wheelchair. One thing that's become over time, has always been put out, is not just physical disabilities, but also sensory and things of that nature. So there's all kinds of things that you talk about. Once in a while you hear universal design, not just barrier-free design. That takes it a step further. However, universal design is suggested only. It is not code. Barrier-free is. There'll be, although we won't cover it, I'll show you how to get to the City of Winnipeg's site, because that's usually the authority having jurisdiction for anything in Winnipeg. But also, if you do a building that you're going to build for the City of Winnipeg, like those fire halls, or lease to the City of Winnipeg, you must do it to the City of Winnipeg specifications, which is slightly different again. They're more stringent on barrier-free than everybody else is. Manitoba also has a few things different. I'm going to show you where to find those differences, but we're going to concentrate on the National Code. So in the next week or two, we'll work out the whole thing. If you do want to get a code book for yourself, if somebody else especially is going to pay for it, by all means, I would take advantage of that. Having your own, because that way you can put tabs in it and everything else for quick reference, it's to your advantage. However, it's not necessary at this point. We're trying to keep it because it's a costly item. Secondly, I'm going to talk to Jerry about it to see if he's okay with it. But I do teach continuing education classes at night. They start next week. Monday night is residential construction. Tuesday night is building code. So in the future, if you're struggling, you're free to sit into that class. Okay? It's going to be about the same course we're doing, and the way we're going, it's one night a week. We're almost going to be at the same points. All right? So if you feel over time that, geez, you're not quite getting it, you'd like to cover it, you're free to sit in any of those classes. But also Wednesday night, I'm teaching building materials. And Thursday night is commercial construction. So we go through a set of blueprints for a large building. In fact, it's White Ridge School. We'll go through a specification. And we'll talk about the construction process. Now, as far as I'm concerned, any one of these you're free to sit in, free of charge. Is anybody interested?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to show up to every class. However, here's the thing. At this point, since it's free, you cannot tell any of my regular students. They're paying $400. The difference is, I will not give you credit. But if you want credit, at the end you can write the challenge exam, which is the same exam as everybody else. To get the credit, you'd have to pay a $150 fee. If you just want it for the experience in that, I have no problem you sitting there for free. But you gotta keep this to yourself, because otherwise you'll tick off all the other students. So it doesn't start till next week. I can remind you again, Monday, right now, the Monday class, the residential construction is iffy. Because usually continuing education works on a cost recovery basis. In other words, they need enough students to run the course. If they don't run it. So that one might be questionable, but I would think for you people, probably ones of most interest would be maybe the Thursday commercial construction. All of them run from 6, it says 6 to 10, but really we only go to 9 o'clock because I can't talk for 4 hours and no one wants to listen to me for 4 hours either, so. Usually what I do is I set up an assignment. That's essentially what I'm going to do with you people too. I will be giving you guys exercises to work on. We'll do some in class together. Someone will say, okay, for next class have these done. So there is going to be some work on your own. No different if I do Con Ed. Like I said, if you're struggling, you're falling behind, if you want to sit into the night classes too, any one of them you're free to do so. The code one, it runs on Tuesday nights. Building materials, I don't know, maybe that might be of value to some of you. The residential too, I guess is basically we're talking about wood frame, typical house construction. But commercial is a little bit different again. When I do talk about the construction process, we look at the specification, the divisions. If you've been next door in the resource room, all those books there are basically divisions 3 to 10. And everything works on that. But I talk about that a little bit too. I'm not talking about in this course, but if you're willing to and if you're interested, you're free to sit in. You don't have to show up every single week, but it's up to you if you want to, if you have the time. You feel so, because I know you're going to carry have enough load as it is. But if you want to supplement it, and you feel you want to sit in, you can always try it out the first time. If you figure, yeah, I already know this, that's fine. Okay? It's not mandatory or compulsory, okay? It's purely volunteer whether you want to. But like I said, the only thing you got to do is you can show up, but you can't let the night regular students say no. All right, because otherwise they'll get very upset because they're paying the tuition costs.
What is the room number?
I will confirm it next week. I can tell you right now the code class is in J114. All my Con Ed classes are in J, as well as all my day classes except for you guys. That's another thing too is, yeah, we'll go in 2 to 4, but I may not be here right at 2 o'clock. All right, because I don't finish with my other class till 2, and that's over in J. So I got to make my way over here. All right, so in all honesty, expect me to be here about like 2:15 at the earliest, frankly. If I can get out of there early one day or two, that's fine. I will be here too. But in most cases, I can tell you right now, chances are I won't be able to. So I just wanted to throw that out. If you wanted to supplement it, and if you want to catch on. You can free to do those. The other thing I gave you was a copy of, and unfortunately, oh, it's kind of small. Because I can't put the machine far enough away. Get rid of this. I gave you the sheet. It's on front and back. It's two-sided. The logo's missing because I didn't set the photocopier dark enough to print it, but it doesn't matter. Some of you, how many people are already members of CTAM? Student members or full members? Associate members? Okay. This is entirely up to you again. Just like if I'm an electrician, do I apply with the plumbers for certification? No. There's a big difference between architectural and structural. Okay? Structural would be covered like all the engineering technicians and technologists under CTAM. Architectural is not. Just like there's the MAA. Architects fall under the MAA as their governing body. Oh, I have time reading this, I'm sure. But there's the Manitoba Association of Architects, which is, ooh, where is it? See if I can bring it a little clearer. I know it's too small. Machines are, there we go. Unfortunately, the machine is too close. But the Manitoba Association of Architects, right here. If you're an interior designer, you belong to PITM. If you're an engineer, of course, you belong